So we're going to do just a cold open this time rather than spiraling out like we normally do. I think last week was a lot of giggling, or last episode was a lot of giggling. So
Sure.
We're going to get right to it.
We're going to change one thing at the end. Otherwise, yes.
Change one thing at the end. Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. So let's get to it, shall we?
You tell me.
Yes.
I'm not hosting this thing.
All right. So welcome back to First Watch, Rewatch, the podcast where one of us is seeing it for the first time.
And the other one already knows what's coming.
I'm Sarah, this time on the Rewatch.
And I'm Tom, watching The Good Wife for the first time.
And today we are covering season 1, episodes 10, 11, and 12 of The Good Wife. 3 amazing, titillating episodes. Lifeguard, Infamy, and Painkiller. So much good stuff to get to. I can tell you are enthralled already. Are you excited for this, Tom?
I really probably should have gone back and rewatched these since I prepared for them like 2 weeks ago. But
I'm so sorry.
One of these episodes is like probably the best episode of this season that I've seen so far.
Oh.
One of them is fairly entertaining, and the other one is still above average.
Oh, so this is a collection of 3 that you collectively liked, then, we'll say.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I like to hear that. All right, so let's get into the first episode, shall we? So our first episode is Lifeguard, directed by Paris Barclay and written by Tom Smuts. Original air date is December 15th, 2009. Off air, I will have something to say about that date. Here is our summary. Alicia investigates a judge's questionable motives after he overturns a simple plea bargain she arranged and sentences her juvenile client to 9 months in detention. Her motivation reveals the judge has a history of unusual sentences and may be a racist. Meanwhile, Diane is offered a judgeship and considers leaving the firm. So we do have as a guest star this episode Tony Goldwyn as Judge Baxter, and you texted me Tony Goldwyn, and I was like, why are you mentioning the villain from Ghost? Because that's the only way that I can view him. In fact, I read like an article, I don't know, like yesterday or something, like top 15 movie villains, and people now think that he is one of the worst villains to have ever existed. So
I like Tony Goldwyn. I think him popping up in last year's Best Picture winner was truly inspirational because nobody signals white privilege quite like Tony Goldwyn.
Yeah, that's true.
He played the president on Scandal. He was very good at it. He is a true blue liberal activist. He's been a decent director. He's a guy I like. So when I see a guest star like David Paymer that just pops up, I usually text you their name. Yes. And you are always confused in the exact same way.
Well, I mean, I'm me, so that should be your first clue.
But before we get too much further, is that the great William Shea's like linebacker jersey in the back?
No, that's actually my brother's. So this is actually my childhood room. So this house only had 2 bedrooms when I was growing up. So this is the room that my brother and I shared until, I don't know, I was about probably like 10 or 11. And then I kicked him out, and he, until I moved out of the house, slept on the couch in the living room. So then this was my room, completely decorated with all of my stuff all over the walls. And then this became my brother's room when I moved out. and then now it is my mom's office, but also like there's still like literally everything that's in front of me over here is all Tim stuff, like books that he was reading and stuff like that. And then this other stuff is different, like, so like there's his bear with his ranger beret, and you can't see it behind this picture, but so now we're getting a tour, everyone. This is really great. You should watch this online. So there's a picture of him there.
This feels like the weird SNL skit where it's Christopher Walken touring through the house.
The Continental?
Yes.
Yes.
Where he's in a creepy robe.
Yes.
With a thin mustache.
Yes. And he says, we're going to have champagne. And then here's actually 3 different, like, artists rendering of him, because they've done different, like, things around the country where they have different artists, like, do stuff for fallen soldiers. So anyway, that is my brother's football jersey. It has been retired at our high school, actually. So the number 57 is significant for us, and nobody at St. Vincent de Paul Catholic High School in Petaluma, California ever gets to wear it ever again. So, yeah.
And they don't serve Heinz at the concession stands.
What? Why would that? What?
57 different varieties?
Oh, okay. Yeah, no. That's a funny joke. I didn't. Sorry. I only associate the 57 with Tim. I have no association with it and ketchup anymore.
It's not just ketchup. It's beans. It's relish. It's mustard.
Yeah. So anyway, yes, this is the room that I used to live in, and this window right here, this is the front of the house. So I used to climb out of this window in high school to sneak out and get up to shenanigans, because my bed would be right here under the window. And one time I came back and Mary Shea was waiting in my bed for me. Yeah. There you go.
Okay, now back to the show.
So I'm just going to say that you sent us on that little tangent, not me.
I asked a very simple question. I did not ask for a tour.
That was not a simple question.
Yeah, it would have required a very short answer.
Okay, so the answer is no.
It was not. That's fine. Are you going to host the show?
Yes, I am. I was just staring at you to make it as uncomfortable as possible. All right, so
I'm not uncomfortable.
For episode 10, this one with Tony Goldwyn, what are your overall impressions for your first watch of this episode?
This is the best episode of the show so far.
Oh, okay, great.
You have corruption.
Mm-hmm.
You have liberals being accused of racism, and I hate to break it to you, liberals, because I am one, but you are. It's just the way things are. You have inherent bias. That's called racism. So build a bridge.
Yeah, literally
one
of the characters says, I wrote it down as a quote, liberals can't be racist is actually a line in this show.
It's so absurd.
Yeah.
I mean, I recognize that I have certain levels of discomfort when I'm a racial minority.
Mm-hmm.
That's just there. I get it. I start to understand what it's like to be on the other side. You don't have to be quote-unquote colorblind, but at least recognize and give it the appreciation that it deserves.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. Not everybody is 100% perfect. And there is racial bias in the sentencing in this country. What liberal, conservative, whatever.
Right.
It's all there. So that's another significant issue. Over prison sentencing or over policing or whatever, I think is another huge issue. And then you build on top of it gambling, which feels very appropriate currently, where we're at in 2026. Mm-hmm. And people using their position of power to get themselves out of gambling issues. Mm-hmm. And then private prisons. I thought that this episode was very topical to where we're at now. It fit with my own point of view and worldview, and I thought it was the most legally accurate that the show has ever been.
Okay, great. Well, that's good
So
to hear.
I invested heavily into this one. I thought it was wonderful, and then, of course, Tony Goldwyn.
See, it's so funny because I saw him and I was like, he is a bad guy. I already know he's going to be a bad guy the second that I see him. And I like that everything pointed to the very straightforward concept that his character is racist, right? All of the storyline setup and everything is, yep, he's a racist. This is exactly what is happening. And then it doesn't quite add up. And so they're trying to figure out, wait, he's definitely racist. He's racist, right? And all of this information keeps coming in and more information keeps coming in. And ultimately, he's doing a bad thing, but it's not the original perception that everybody had on it. And I liked that it was a little bit more subversive and turns into, no, he's just a jerk who's willing to sell anybody down the river, essentially, to make money because he makes bad decisions, and yet also fundamentally functions under the guise of he can't possibly be a racist, even when the results of his selfish actions are, even if he's not necessarily consciously doing it, right?
I thought about the possibility of some type of corruption where he's taken kickbacks or something to do the over-policing very early on. But they give you a lot of good red herrings in this episode. The whole rape or attack on his wife. And then the racial component and how he goes sideways. Then his relationship with Will. Then the whole Diane trying to get into the judiciary and the politics of all of that. So it had a lot of elements. It had a lot of depth. It had a lot of stakes going on. And it kept me engaged throughout the whole thing because, again, I think these are some very topical and important issues within the legal community yet.
Well, and it's very, very layered and nuanced. You also have the introduction of some like legal concepts that the average viewer may not be aware of, for example, right? So you have they mentioned legal aid for the first time, right? And so legal aid is a program that provides like legal services to those who can't afford it. They also have referral services, and it's usually low cost or potentially pro bono. So this is different than you being assigned, like given an attorney because you've been arrested. This is when you go out and look for an attorney on your own. And sometimes they'll be like, we don't have anyone who can help you. We're going to send you off somewhere else. But this is legal aid is not a show specific organization or a Chicago specific organization. This is like a national resource that people can access. And usually you can just look up legal aid and it'll put you in touch with whatever the local stuff is. And so for people who need representation but feel like they can't afford a lawyer, it is the absolute best first stop for trying to figure out what it is that you can do, actually. So we're going to see more legal aid stuff, but that's the beginning of this episode, is like this concept that this stuff is available because Alicia kind of figures out there's something weird going on because she's got this cute, adorable little kid with glasses, and he's literally sent to prison for punching
9
a
months,
kid.
I think.
It's 9 months, yeah.
Yeah. And I think one thing I'd like to add here, 9 months doesn't seem a lot,
Right.
but in the juvenile delinquent system, it is. And while the thing I'm going to recommend here is not necessarily having to do with juvenile cases, if you want a good example of how somebody getting institutionalized very quickly within the prison system goes, The Night Of is an excellent example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good point.
Short mini-series from HBO about 10, 11 years ago.
Yeah. And I've seen, well, just in my own career, I've seen some interesting ways that juvenile detention plays into how kids are functioning, essentially, if they are able to get out of it and come back to public school, if they don't ever come back, all of that type of stuff. So what did you think about... Okay, so there's 3 things I wanted to ask you about. So we have this really tiny little offshoot of Jackie, the mother-in-law, freaking out because one of the kids is friends with another kid whose son is in prison, and Jackie is offended because her son is an honorable man and she doesn't want her grandchildren hanging out with actual criminals. What did you think of that in terms of a piece of development?
Not surprising in the least, and I know we haven't gotten to that episode yet, but when Jackie ends up in the hospital, or at least like is collapsed, I thought, oh, cool, I don't have to see her again. No.
No, she doesn't take off.
This is the old white lady pearl clutching bullshit that I can't stand.
Yeah.
Yeah. I won't get into the greatest generation and their issues.
Okay. Yeah.
Like my grandfather.
Okay. So she's reinforcing, essentially, right, the idea that Peter is untouchable. And we all know that it's not true, but we're watching her just be very hard-lined on this. And then we're also watching Grace, the daughter, kind of struggling to make friends and connect with people and all of that type of stuff. Okay, so then we have... okay, so what about Diane being approached about becoming a judge? What did you think about that little storyline?
I think it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
From what I can see of the firm, there's kind of an unusual partnership between them because Will seems her junior by a number of years. I mean, I think that's fair to say.
Mm-hmm.
Diane seems more seasoned, and then their former partner, now, as of, I think, the last episode that we saw, was much, much older than they were. And so there's this kind of like 3 age generations, chapters, all kind of not fitting completely together.
Mm-hmm.
But she and Will act like they came up together, and like there's this weird camaraderie with them when they don't seem like contemporaries.
Okay.
Usually somebody in a certain high-level position, when they want to get out, I mean, she's going to make more in private practice and not doing a lot. And to be quite frank, my father has always drilled into me the notion that if you want to basically semi-retire, you become a judge. And then when you really want to retire, you go into senior status.
Well, right. And also, but you don't just get to decide to be a judge. It's not just you go apply for the job. You have to be elected to those positions. And the terms typically are around like 6 years. The only time that these positions become available is if somebody does actually retire. So her being...
Or die.
Correct. Or retire, right. The only lifelong, like, judicial positions are in the Supreme Court. And so at this level, it is an elected position, meaning they need to be supported by the public, which is why this group of people coming in and saying, we want you, we want this person in your firm pursuing this thing against this other judge, like that's not a good look. All of these things, because she's going to have essentially a campaign. Now, once you're more or less elected, you keep your position and you keep getting reelected. It's very rare that an incumbent judge is ousted. But yeah.
Okay, maybe in where they're at. Mm-hmm. I think there's a significant difference that you're not highlighting or glossing over from local judgeships versus ones in major metropolitan areas.
Okay.
Where it's much more party controlled. The reason why she needs their support is that they're going to keep everybody else out of the race. Correct. And swing the primary to her, because Correct. Nobody's going to vote Republican in Cook County. But there are plenty of judges who get ousted in elections all over the country in more rural districts and whatever all the time. Moderate-sized cities, depending on a number of different circumstances. Yes, the incumbency factor is a thing. You are correct that most times people just run unopposed
right.
once they win that initial seat.
Right.
But there are opportunities, and you can just run. But in a place that is so heavily blue, or at least heavily one party favoring, you're going to get one side basically king-making at all times. So
Sure.
They can do the political levers and whatnot. And I'm sure in certain red counties in America, it's the same to a degree. That's just how politics is.
Sure. Well, but one of the things is that it's not a job that you graduate to and then you just get to sit back. Like, it is you have to actively work to stay a judge, basically. If you are you just said people get ousted out of office all the time because you have to keep working at it. You can't have it both ways, that they have fucking tenure and then not. You become a judge and you get to hope that you get to stay a judge, right? More or less. And most people get to stay because there's not a lot of...
You just have to not piss people off.
Correct, but you just said that I was glossing over all of the political control and people being taken in and out. And so I'm like, yeah,
well, you also
great.
said Diane needed to run a campaign, and that's just not true.
She's going to have to.
No, she wouldn't. That's the whole point. They were going to keep everybody else out of the primary. She would be the only name on the blue side of the ballot. Once she gets through the primary, there'd be really nobody to oppose her because nobody's voting Republican in that county.
Still going to have something. Trust me, there's going to be signs and all that type of shit because she would be a new name.
Okay.
Have you ever voted for a judge before?
Yes, many times.
Me too.
I've campaigned for judges in more competitive districts.
So there are campaigns for judges. I'm not saying it's going to be like rock'em sock'em thing, but you literally just said I have campaigned for judges. So she's going to have
yes,
some sort of campaign.
No, not
yes.
in Cook County.
Yes. Thomas, there's going to be something, even if the campaign is don't have to do anything except sit back. That's still a campaign.
Her name could literally just appear on the ballot, on the primary, and then the general, and she wins, as long as they keep everybody else out, which is what they're doing.
Which is still part of the campaign.
That's not a campaign.
How is she Okay, let's move on. You're wanting to be so specific about it, and that's not the point. There is some sort of maneuvering that has to go on to get her that position, or anybody that position. And yes, part of that is keeping other people out so that they don't have to do much. But everything that they're doing in this episode is to prepare for whatever would come next, in the hope that they get to keep everyone else out. And the whole reason that she isn't a judge already is because it takes all of these different levels, and it is not that easy to become a judge because it is an elected position. So she could say, I want to be a judge, and go for it, and then they'd be like, so sorry, we're not going to support you because we're supporting this other candidate that we like better, right? Which is literally what they were talking to her about. So that's still a component of a campaign, even if it's not like... Okay, so for example, they're not actually playing the fucking football game. They're trying to get to the football game so that they can just win by default. But it's still part of playing the game, is all of the setup beforehand.
I thought we were moving on.
We are moving on.
And then somebody went on for an additional 2.5 minutes on the same topic to get the last word in. I was just waiting for us to move on.
Right. It's fine. So Carrie and Kalinda hang out some more in this episode, and they're investigating together again. And Kalinda says there are 4 things that basically push all people, that motivate people, and that it's basically sex, money, hatred, or love is the wisdom.
It's
that
very
she puts on
Machiavellian.
Carrie. It is. What do you think about their little relationship at this point?
Was it Machiavelli who did that the only 3 types are love, persuasion, or power? Those are the only things that move or motivate people to do different actions? Mm-hmm. I was going to say, this kept me on the train track of that they're going to hook up until the end of episode 11. So we'll put a pin in that one. Okay.
We will come back to that. Anything else you want to say about this episode? It's just your favorite so far. Okay. All right, so we're going to move on to episode 11. It's called Infamy, directed by Nelson McCormick, and written by Todd Ellis Kessler, right? Okay. Original air date is January 5th, 2010, and here is the summary. So a Tucker Carlson-type TV commentator continually accuses a Chicago mother of killing her missing 3-year-old child, causing her to commit suicide. The firm represents the grieving husband in a wrongful death suit against the TV commentator and his television network. Alicia represents the wife of her husband's nemesis, Glenn Childs, in a divorce case. So those are 2 separate things. And so we have our guest star, this one playing Duke Roscoe, this TV guy, is Craig Birko. I really enjoyed watching him on, what's the name of the show? Is it called Unreal? Where he's like the head of a reality TV show drama. It's very, very fun. He plays a very interesting character. And then we have another arrival of a recognizable actor, not a guest star, but is going to be a recurring character, and that is the character David Lee, who's played by Zach Grenier. How do you Grenier? I think is how you say his name. Anyway, he's in Family Law in the firm, so he's gonna be sticking around for a while. He's not ever gonna have like, I think, anything other than like reoccurring, but yeah. All right, so first watch impressions for you, Thomas, for this episode.
The Duke character, very good at what he did. A decent caricaturized version of essentially a mixture between political commentator and shock jock. It's kind of like the Nancy Grace of the far right kind of feeling.
Okay, yep.
I thought what he did was despicable, but they also mixed up the law because they were applying the Brandenburg standard somehow to the New York Times versus Sullivan standard for libel that was more about slander and had to do with the constitutional law portions of this tort claim were all over the fucking map.
Okay.
And poorly advised as far as I'm concerned, because they applied the wrong standard multiple times over.
Okay.
But that being said, it was still entertaining because, well, a mother killed herself. The father's still grieving. The child comes back in the end. It's a nice closed loop story that you get some level of catharsis over in the end, which I enjoyed. Otherwise, I thought from the first couple of episodes that we've seen Childs, he was more of a white knight type, less of the politically shady, maneuvering type. And then he starts to show his underbelly here, and it was interesting. Mm-hmm. I will say, the family law attorney was a guy I've recognized, but I don't remember him that much. The wife, though, has been that lady, I don't know how many times, in various different TV shows all over the fucking place. Mm-hmm. I probably have seen her in a dozen different TV shows over 20 years.
Okay.
She just shows up everywhere.
It's funny because I don't recognize her at all. Zach Grenier, so David Lee, the family guy. And I love his introduction to Alicia. And she's like, oh, but I have to go to this other thing. And he's like, at the moment, we're the department that brings in the most money, and we outrank anything else that you're doing. So you need to come with us because...
Which totally would not happen when there are two partners on the other primary case.
Sure.
Which also would not happen. You would not have two partners on the same case. And yet it seemingly happens every week.
Every week it does. But I recognize him most actually from the movie Twister. He's on the bad guy side on Twister. He's Carrie Ellis's assistant. Anyway, so you have these two things. The baby is found at the end, and it kind of distracts a little bit from the fact that the TV guy, Duke Roscoe, is essentially let go. They aren't going to press charges. There's nothing that they can hold him to. And then the baby's alive. Yay! Baby's alive. Which is so great, but then we follow that thread, and there's nothing that to kind of follow up on that character at all. So then you have Childs, and he shows some of his underbelly. Now, this episode provided some progression on a prediction that you have been making since the beginning. And what was that?
Putting him in Gen Pop makes it much more likely that he's going to get shivved with a shank or shanked with a shiv.
Shanked with a shiv. Yeah. How did you feel about that when he sends him in there?
Why didn't he do it sooner?
Why didn't he do it sooner? But he's doing it specifically because Alicia is representing his wife, and he's taking it out. He's taking out Peter on Alicia and Alicia on Peter. It's a weird sort of thing.
Most ridiculous and unbelievable thing that I could possibly muster is that he thinks Alicia talked her into divorcing him.
Right.
Especially because she supposedly already had a different lawyer, and Alicia is not the primary person that is representing her. Okay.
Right. So this Mrs. Childs reveals that she has information that she can give to Alicia about Childs and basically Peter and all of this weird stuff that is going on. And so this episode, as you were saying, there's this corruption that was going on in the last episode. This implies that there's also other types of corruption going on, right?
Remind me when we get to 12 here that I have a particular thought about this piece of information.
That she provides?
Yes.
Are we going to mention right now what that piece of information is?
Okay, so Yeah, let's just go into it. I'll skip around a little bit based on this because it's really kind of, it starts in 12 at the very end and then it really continues on to 13. So if we're going to talk about it, let's just drive right into the barrier.
Okay.
First off, the recordings, not a big deal per se, except he's not privy to the conversations, so he would have had to have had a warrant. So if he has a warrant for them, you don't make a big deal out of it, which you would get a warrant for that in discovery. And if he didn't have a warrant, it doesn't matter what the fucking tapes say. You're not going to be able to use it. It's going to be inadmissible because he did something illegal.
Okay, yeah.
And his possession of said tapes in a private manner would mean his head is on the chopping block. And all of the prosecution would now be undermined. So, find out if there's a warrant. You don't have to do all this skullduggery with Kalinda.
So, the wife, Mrs. Childs, reveals that they've been recording and surveilling Peter and the house or the new apartment or whatever it is, right? So there's all of this subterfuge going on. So that's the last piece of information essentially that we receive at the end of this episode, is that essentially Childs is monitoring Peter and Alicia in a way that is not
above
justified.
board.
Correct. So, all right, let's move on to episode 12. So episode 12 is called Painkiller, directed by Steve Schill, written by Corrine Brinkerhoff. Original air date is January 12th, 2010, and here is the summary. A star high school quarterback dies from an overdose of painkillers, and Alicia defends the family physician who is charged with murder for prescribing the medication. The doctor claims he is innocent, and Alicia attempts to uncover the truth. Meanwhile, Jackie suffers a stroke, dun dun dun, and Childs asks investigator Kalinda Sharma to help undermine Peter's appeal. So this is where we essentially are given the full information that Childs has tapped their home phone. Okay.
Special guest star,
yes. Daniel Cosgrove.
Well, yes, but I was thinking of a different person.
Okay. Oh, yes. Well, we don't see her very long. But we have Renee Elise Goldsberry, who plays Angelica in Hamilton, and she is Geneva Pine, and we are going to see her a lot coming up. Is that who you were thinking of? No, someone else.
No.
Oh, sorry, Hamilton.
The babysitter, wasn't that Betty Gilpin?
From, I don't know who that is.
Well, she was in a couple of different shows like Nurse Jackie and...
Nope. She looks kind of familiar to me, but I don't care who she is.
I just want to make sure that I was right on this one. So forgive me for literally looking this up in the moment, but I probably should have just gone to the IMDb first instead of trying to look at her credits.
Yep.
But I was almost positive that was her. So let's see here. The Good Wife, 1 episode in 2010 as Molly. Yes, so I was correct. But she is most notable for Glow, Mrs. Davis. She was recently in Death by Lightning and Office Romance, and now Widow's Bay.
Nope. No idea who she is.
Okay. Well, that's fine.
So one of the detectives is this guy who was a soap opera star, who's a huge star, doing that. Anyway.
Oh, that guy? Mm-hmm. The other... Wait, not the guy that not the guy that Kalinda has a relationship with, but the guy that's the murder detective. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that guy? The guy from Van Wilder?
Daniel Cosgrove? Are we okay? You might be thinking about the other guy, Dash Mihuk, who is the guy with the beard, tall, like ginger-looking guy. He like played all kinds of weird stuff.
No, I'm thinking of Daniel Cosgrove.
Okay, was he on Van Wilder? I don't remember that.
Yeah, he's like the antagonist in Van Wilder.
Right, well, because he was
the guy with like 9 seconds of performance in him.
Right. He was a soap opera star. So he was on, like, I think it was, like, general, like, for dozens of years. Like, yeah.
One of my favorite lines of all time. Richard, you never told me that you were a Delta Iota Kappa. A dick. Not that you had to.
Okay, so we have this kid ODs, and Alicia ends up representing the doctor who prescribed the stuff because the firm represents the hospital, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Correct. And so they basically can't figure out, okay, the kid was found with like 80 milligrams of whatever it was. And
I think it was oxycodone.
Okay.
It is important.
Okay.
Because that was part of what I was going to go on about is why the fuck are you prescribing any type of opiates to a kid who's not going through like surgery?
Right. Well,
I know this is 2010 before we kind of knew all about this, but that still feels very irresponsible. The only time I've had opiates is when I had my wisdom teeth out and a foot of my colon removed. That's it.
I didn't even have it when my wisdom teeth came out. They like gave me Valium. That was it. So he had been given a prescription for 20 milligrams, but he shows up with 80. So he has way more than he is supposed to. And so then they go through this whole thing where they're like, how does stuff get dispensed? How did he do it? Well, then we find out the doctor wrote the prescription or saw the kid like at his home because he was injured, whatever, blah, 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 blah. And
which then why was he playing?
Because he was the star quarterback? But then it all comes down that his mom, like, they think that he was, like, going to gyms to get illegal drugs. And so Carrie goes to work out at the gym with Kalinda to get access to these illegal drugs. And then they arrest the guy who's selling the illegal drugs. But it's actually the mom who's taking the drugs.
Okay.
So she's responsible for whatever. It's this one.
Let's slightly back up since we went back to Carrie and Kalinda.
Yeah.
The fact that she was seen visibly worried in the last episode at the very last moment, because it seems like every episode now has some weird reveal at the very tail end of every show. Mm-hmm. And Diane is outed as the lesbian, to which she, of course, snorts and laughs and whatever else. Not like, ooh, being a lesbian in Chicago is a really big deal, even in 2010.
Well, but that was at the end of the last episode, yeah.
I understand. But Kalinda looked very worried. And I may rephrase my statement at some point because that may mean that, unfortunately, for Carrie, his woos shall go unnoticed.
Because she's gay.
Yeah.
Is what you're explicitly trying to say. Okay. Maybe.
It would make a bit of sense with how they've drawn that character. Based on the over stereotypical version of that in 2010.
Okay. Understood. But they all... Okay, so then... Okay, the OD...
And the nuance of bisexuality was not quite as in the ether yet.
Yeah, no, Bi Erasure was working hard at the time. So, okay, the OD storyline, I just like don't. It's fine. It was interesting.
Yeah, it was.
But like,
It carried the episode a little bit from the standpoint that you had a weepy mom and you had a seemingly upstanding doctor with a believable face. Mm-hmm. But
Well,
it was carrying you from A to B, and the B plots on this were much more important.
Right, and I think the only thing that I enjoyed about the overall OD plot is that it kept kind of switching, right? The same way that the first episode for the racism plot kind of kept weaving in terms of, oh, you think it's this and now it's this, and oh, you think, but it keeps moving on. I enjoyed that part, and then the reveal that the mom is essentially accidentally responsible was interesting. But the other plot that Kalinda is now... Okay, so the babysitter is hired and then fired. Don't care about that. Oh, Zach, the son, kisses the slutty girl. And then... Yeah. Aren't we going to be in trouble because we're in my room?
I think he is a whiny little bitch.
Yeah.
But...
Don't blame him. Yeah.
No,
don't blame him.
If I were hooking up with a girl like 2 years older than me or whatever at the time in high school, I'd have no problem with just about anybody knowing it.
Right. Well, and she's that girl. She's like closes the door in order to put the moves on him, and I'm just like, why are you?
And also
interested in
committed
this kid?
statutory rape in the process.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. Why are you interested in this little boy? I mean, he's not a little boy. He's what, like 14 or 15, right?
But there is a very big double standard when it comes to the power dynamics of those roles.
Of course. But Kalinda at the end of the episode is a double agent? Basically?
Dun 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 dun.
Yeah. So she's asked by Childs because
I don't think she's working for either of them. I think she's using it to get herself out of the situation because she's smarter than both of them.
Right. So Childs pulls her in because he knows that she had previously worked for Peter for the SA's office, and
she's working with Alicia.
And so she keeps feeding information back and forth, but I can't quite figure out or remember why she bothers. Like, what's in it for her?
Well, Childs had threatened her to start with, so she has to figure out some way forward.
Threatened her with what? I don't remember.
He specifically, if I recall correctly from like 2 weeks ago, indicates that Peter was not the only one that was investigated during that time in the DA's office or the state's attorney's office.
Oh, yeah. Okay. And we also don't really know the relationship between Peter and Kalinda. It felt weird, right, when she went to visit Peter without Alicia's permission. And yeah, there seems to be some history there that doesn't feel quite right.
But to restore the possibility that she could still do something with Carrie, she does seemingly hook up with the other investigator cop with the big forehead.
The tall guy.
Yeah.
Okay. Seabrook, I think, is his name. Does she hook up with him?
I think it was at least on the table. It was more than insinuated that they'd hooked up before, and she didn't seem to mind all that much. Horse trading with that.
Do you think that she's like... Okay, so you said it's possible that she's gay. Do you think that she could just be like a person of opportunity and just uses whatever's going on?
That's why I said it's a possibility that remains open. We have no strategic certainty at all, which is the point. I have said multiple times on this show that she's the character that I connect with the least because they hold back more on her than anybody else. And I think we're finally getting to the point where they may start to slowly unravel that character.
You could be right. I'm not going to reveal
I could be wrong.
You could be wrong.
I may be crazy.
You might be crazy. So then here's my other question. So Peter is put into the gen population, but then he is taken out. How disappointed were you? He hasn't been killed yet. Like last episode was, maybe it's going to happen. And now.
Please.
You still think it's
it
going to happen?
doesn't matter where he is. It's just modes of opportunity. I've watched too much Mayor of Kingstown to think that anybody is untouchable once they're inside the walls of the prison.
Okay. So you still...
Everybody can end up dead in suspicious ways.
Okay. All right. So out of these 3 episodes, you said that the first one was your favorite so far, but also out of these 3, right?
I'm not sure it's my favorite. I think it's the best.
The best. Okay. Then we'll... Okay.
It's probably pretty close to favorite, but I don't know if I would... I hadn't really thought about it in that manner.
Okay. And that's a great distinction. Do you have... Well, then I'm going to put you on the spot. What's your favorite? Which one have you enjoyed the most? I don't know.
Lifeguard's in the running. The unorthodox, where it's the Jewish couple with the First Amendment thing, is in the running.
Early on, yeah.
I think it's between those 2.
Okay. Okay.
I think I might default to unorthodox first, and then Lifeguard second.
Okay.
But those are probably by far the 2 that rise the most.
Interesting. Okay. So and is that based on the cases specifically?
It's based on the totality of the episode.
Okay.
But yes, the case has a significant portion to do with it because your A story in a particular episode means more. I don't think that the B stories, because they carry on so much in between episodes, it's in the background. And so it's hard to really separate out any of them. But the A story has to feel like it has consequences and plays a little bit into how the rest of the B stories are being played out. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Okay. Out of these 3, in terms of just the cases, right? Which case was the best? Is it still the...
It's by far Lifeguard.
Lifeguard, yeah.
The second one gets the legalese incorrect, and the third one is more of an emotional play than it is necessarily trying to play to the analytical, the accuracy, the rest of it that you kind of need. Yeah. And it's much more investigative than it is courtroom, which...
Good point, yeah.
You get a little less of the back and forth, the retort, the reply, the pop and volley kind of thing.
Right. Okay. That's an excellent point. So let's go over... So we didn't have Will really in any of the episodes. Well, we had him in the first episode, Lifeguard, and he has this relationship with Baxter,
Tony
Goldwyn character. And Ghost Man. So what did you think of that relationship, and does that affect the way that you viewed Will at all? Because you've said Will is kind of at the top for you in terms of characters.
I think it makes sense. Technically, it's unethical, especially in a larger body, for judges and attorneys to really be that friendly. But we all know it happens. And especially in smaller communities. My father was not much of a defense attorney at a certain point, but the assistant district attorney, and when he was still doing public defender work, they went to church together. They were in the same fantasy football league that I ran through church for years. Nobody cared because you only had like 20 lawyers in town. It wasn't like they didn't all know each other.
Well, right. And then you are under the obligation when you are up in front of if there's any sort of conflict of interest, you say, I have a conflict of interest. I cannot be here. Right. So.
But nobody ever made them go to that limb because, again, there were few and far between people who were going to be able to be assigned to things, and there were only so many ADAs back in the day. It doesn't take place as much in smaller communities. But in larger ones, where you would think that there are courthouses all over the city, and there's a much larger rotation of judges, et cetera, that the overlap would be minimal, and that he would likely recuse himself. But in the end, it doesn't change my opinion of Will, because he forgoes his personal relationship in order to do the right thing, which is what you want.
Right.
He lets the personal relationship affect him to a point, and then he at least questions it a little bit, and when he uncovers something, he acts on it.
Right. Good point. What do you think about Tony's accusation that Will and Alicia are sleeping together? Or that they have some sort of relationship?
Which, given that the Duke character basically makes the same insinuation, and Peter's already jealous of that relationship, and everybody knows that they are close, and that they've been together in late-night situations in the office, and come on. There would have been rumors started a long time before this.
Which episode is it where he's having a little affair with the other attorney? It wasn't in any of these three. Was it our last three? Where he's sleeping with the girl
it's
with
in
the
the
tattoo?
Infamy one.
Right, it was in the last one.
No, I think it's in episode 11 here.
11. Is it?
I think so. I'm pretty sure.
It was so uninteresting to me, I didn't even write it down as a thing that was happening.
I don't know. I mean, I didn't immediately remember it when you brought it up, I'm like, oh, cool.
Right.
Get some.
But
sure. Also, you guys should not be on opposing sides ever, because your clients will sue you and you will both be disbarred.
Right.
During an active case, you're sleeping together? No.
No, you
No.
hold off. But isn't she from she's from out of town. Right.
She's opposing counsel.
But she's not always there. Isn't there some implication?
I think she works for a different firm because it's a tort claim.
But like
she doesn't work for the state's attorney.
No,
she works for a different.
No, that she is like in.
I don't know.
Because it seems like the only time that they have to see each other is when they actually have cases against each other, when she's around.
Which also is really, really bad.
No, right. No, it's bad 100% of the time. But like, yeah, to me, my understanding was like she's coming in and she's visiting, and they only hook up when she's in town. It's not a long distance thing. It's not even a cross town thing. It's a sex only thing.
There's a lot of people sleeping with a lot of other people in these 3 episodes. And
true.
When you said it was titillating and I questioned it, I withdraw my previous statement. Because there
is a lot of sex.
Intrigued a little bit by this one.
Okay.
Even if I didn't immediately remember it.
Because what it does is it shows that, obviously, people are interested in Will, that he does have a little bit of a... Because you're talking about... Yes, but you're talking about he has this really great moral compass, but he's also doesn't, because...
I didn't say that he has a perfect moral compass.
No, and I said great.
And other than the one episode very early on where Diane seems compromised, they've completely flipped that character.
Okay.
She's been more than above board on just about everything since.
Yeah. Do you
including
think
the
that was
Tony Goldwyn episode.
Right. Do you think that that was the original intention, or they realized right away that they had to switch it? I'm just asking
I don't
to
know,
make a
but they
guess.
changed Carrie very early on. I
Yeah.
told you. Oh, why am I drawing a blank on his name? Who wrote? He wrote Parks and Rec, and he created The Good Place. Michael Schur. That it takes 10 or 11 episodes for a show to really find itself.
Mm-hmm.
I think you reinvent the characters a few times during those first 10 or so episodes.
Okay.
So it doesn't surprise me that the characters changed, especially since we're really focusing in and psychoanalyzing these episodes piece by piece by piece.
Right.
Most people will just like binge 3 or 4 of them and then won't notice the subtle changes and flips in this. But from about episode 5 on, Carrie and Diane seem to be much more upstanding, much more involved, less competitive. And occasionally you'll have Will where he has some moral backsliding or some questionable decisions, but for the most part it feels like they're all part of a team and that there's antagonists outside of the firm than inside.
Right. The competition between Alicia and Carrie is definitely diminished compared to the way that it began. Okay, so how are you feeling about Alicia at this point?
Like her,
You like her, okay?
but I think she also needs to figure out what side of the fence she's on with Peter.
Okay.
I think
Explain
she
that a
has
little
been
more.
straddling so much back and forth with being like almost to the point of her mother-in-law at times, and then at other times screaming in his face.
Mm-hmm.
I understand in a reality point of view, that's how most people react when they have a very complicated relationship with somebody over multiple decades. But girl, pick a lane. Like, figure your shit out.
But the kids
Are you
asked,
for or against him?
you went to go see a divorce attorney, and she says, yes, I did that when I was very, very mad within the first week of finding out, and now I'm okay. She's basically like, it's no big deal. So she's at least saying what side of the fence she is on, that she's, or at least to the family members, right? That, nope, I'm in it. We're still married. We're going to stay married. There's none of this other issue. She's not looking for an exit. And her blowing hot and cold with him, sure, I think makes sense. And she should probably be a little bit more consistent. But that feels kind of normal to me, don't you think? Like, if that's kind of
It's
position
probably
you were
more
in.
realistic than her picking one lane and sticking to it. But
Right. 'Cause
it's
throwing him in-
annoying. It's like your friend who decides that they don't like a guy, but they're going to continue to stay with him, and then they just keep kind of like flip-flopping. And, well, I'm going to do it now. I'm going to break up with him. Tonight's the night. Did you do it? No.
She's not even at that point
He was
yet,
all
though.
sad looking, and it wasn't... Okay,
No,
girl.
sure, but she's not even at that point. She's just, yeah.
I understand,
Yeah.
but she's been at that point, and then you're like, well, fool me once.
Yeah.
Anyway,
we'll have
it's
to
quite
see.
possible that since she also has seemingly changed on her attitude towards Peter since the first few episodes, and from about episode 5 has been much more supportive, that was just written in differently as well.
True. I mean, it is called The Good Wife. She's being a good wife. She's standing by him, right? There's no way she's going to hook up with Will.
I disagree. I think she is outwardly perceived as being the good and dutiful wife, but I don't think she's doing what's best for him.
Okay. So what do you think would be best?
I think
for
she's
him?
enabling him.
Okay. And so that she should do what instead?
Divorce his ass.
Okay.
Let him hit rock bottom. Know that there are consequences for the shit that he did.
Okay. And you think it single-handedly is on her? The onus is on
No.
her to...
No. But she also is not helping him learn, helping him grow by just sticking around. Is it solely her responsibility? No, because ultimately he has to make the change. He has to be willing. But she is also not allowing him the space and the opportunity to do so on his own.
He doesn't want that space and opportunity, though. Don't you think
Whether
would fight
he
her?
wants it or not is not the point. If she
Okay.
cared about him, it's like a certain level of parenting, too. You have to let them screw up and figure that there are actual consequences so that they can rebound. Usually at a younger age when the consequences are less severe.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's not wrong. That's not wrong. Okay. Any other final thoughts?
So, I'm going to introduce something new this evening
Oh.
to this
great.
last part of the show,
Okay.
which is now that I strategically went back and started actually watching TV again for a bit. I don't have quite as many movies on my plate. I don't have any major projects. Now that Revisionist Almanac is on a hiatus, I don't have to prepare for an episode for that for a while, if ever. No idea what's going to happen with that. Sorry if that's news to you, but, you know. Regardless, I wanted to do recommendations of things that I've been watching lately.
Okay.
And if you would like to follow me, that is entirely up to you. But the last season of The Bear, this is what we expected from the third season. And then we kind of traded water for seasons 3 and 4. So season 5, back to pretty close. Not quite the peak that we got in mid-season 2, but an excellent send-off. And then it kind of just drifts away at the end and leaves... I thought there would have been so much more satisfying if they gave it like a nice, big, clean-cut ending instead of just, well, we're going to all move on with our lives, and he may come back, he may not come back, and maybe we'll do another season eventually, but no. It left it way too open-ended for me, and I like conclusions to things. Anyway, also, now that I'm catching up on stuff, Your Friends and Neighbors, I had started watching the show with the rest of everybody else when it was season 2 was coming back out. I'm now catching up on the last back half because I think right about the time where episode 4 hit was when I had finals in the spring, and every part of my being was dedicated towards that. So now moving on, catching back up. I always love to see James Marsden in things, and when he's a bad guy, even better. So those are my recommends this week.
Excellent. I'm trying to think. I've been watching a lot of like documentary or like miniseries stuff, which has been incredibly fascinating. Every time I come and visit here in Sonoma, we're always watching like Grantchester, which is a super fun, cute show, and I'm like coming in and out of it all of the time, and I'm like, oh, Hot Priest is doing something interesting over here, and what's going on. I enjoy that. But I actually got my parents started on watching Fire Country, and because I'm almost done with all of the seasons, and they have this.
Isn't that with Morena Baccarin?
The shoot off is, yes, Sheriff Country, which stars her. Okay, but the series Fire Country started by an actor local to this area, so actually grew up in this area, and because of the huge fires that were here, basically back 10 years ago. Wanted to kind of make a show that was about the Cal Fire stuff, using this prison inmate fire people, and like, so my dad actually knows people who have gone through that system. So it's just really fun because they mention a lot of places that are here in the area. And today we drove by 3 different CAL FIRE stations, and it's fun because it's an innocuous little show. It's very melodramatic, and watching my parents react, especially my dad reacting to some characters being like, no, don't talk to him, don't do that, oh god, he's like very emotionally invested, which is super fun and super cute. So we'll see how far they get. And yeah, so that's basically what I've been watching, and it's more or less current, right? There's still new stuff coming out. Like, they just finished the 4th season of Fire Country. There's going to be another one. They just did the 1st season of Sheriff Country, and yeah, so that's one that I would recommend. It's really, really fun.
Alrighty.
Yeah. Okay.
But
so,
on a separate note,
uh-oh,
when this episode drops in a few days, there will be an episode of G-Mote on Legally Blonde, celebrating the 25th anniversary for that. And
Fun.
Dana and I had both of my little sisters on because that was like their favorite movie when I was in my early teens.
Aw, that's cute. I showed that movie to Keely maybe about like 6 months ago, and she loved it. And I was actually I didn't know if she was going to like it or not, if she was going to be, I don't know, offended by Elwood's being so girly and stuff. No, she ate it up. She thought it was super, super great. So that'll be a fun episode. I'm looking forward to listening to that then.
And when is the next episode of Shea Cinema?
Any time, really. Yep. We actually, okay, it has been so, we have to do a finale for season 6. It has been so long since we have recorded the first episodes, like 2 years. We're actually going back and re-listening to the episodes because we don't remember what we discussed because it was so long ago, literally years ago. So today we re-listened to our episode on Smiling Through, and it made both of us cry. So there you go. Anytime, Tom. Anytime. Like I said, we're just
Well,
pushing
just
it
keep
into...
waiting.
Yep, you just keep waiting. Okay?
Because we're through June now.
I know. We're into July. It's true. Okay. I have to get on that. You are correct. Eventually.
Usually am.
Sometimes. Most of the time.
No, most
A lot of the time. All right. So next time we are covering episodes 13, 14, and 15 of The Good Wife. I almost said The Good Place. That's not what we are watching. Okay. Any final thoughts?
Blah, blah.
Blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah.
You know, I'm in also Charles Schultz country here. Like, the airport here is literally the Charles Schultz Regional Airport, the Snoopy Airport.
Oh, peanuts.
Yes, exactly. All right, so thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Adjourned.